Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we're spending our time in the company of Ghost, specifically the engineers of the Office of Research and Development, or ORD. In 1970, the CIA was losing the technical arms race. Microphones were the size of cigarette packs, surveillance cameras required massive lenses. The fly on the wall was a metaphor, not a reality. But a man named Don Resizer looked at a dragonfly in his garden and saw something the agency had missed: the perfect aerodynamic platform. This wasn't science fiction, this was Project Insectothopter. Based on the technical specifications found in document CIA RDP 90G01353R0012001 00001-8. We are going to dismantle this project piece by piece, from its gas-powered heart to its laser-guided brain. To understand the Insectothopter, you have to understand the era. In 1970, there were no microprocessors, there were no lithium polymer batteries. If you wanted to make a mechanical bug fly, you couldn't use electricity. It was too heavy. The engineers turned to fluidics. Fluidics is a branch of engineering that performs logic and movement using only the flow of gas or liquid. No moving parts, no electronics. The Insectothopter's engine was a fluidic oscillator. The engine was a tiny chamber smaller than a thumbnail. When a gas grain propellant was ignited, it created high-pressure exhaust. This gas entered the oscillator. Due to the co-onda effect, the gas would cling to one wall of the chamber, build up pressure, and then snap over to the other side. This created a rhythmic, high-frequency pulsing exactly like a piston, but without the weight of a motor. This pulse was piped directly into the wing joints. The wings weren't just flapping, they were vibrating at 20 cycles per second. The technical logs from 1972 described the fluidic heart as the breakthrough of the decade. They had created a gas-powered insect that could lift its own weight, 1 gram, and a payload of sensors. It wasn't enough to fly. It had to vanish. The ORD brought in specialized biologists and professional taxidermists to Langley. They studied the Insectothopter, the dragonfly. They realized that a dragonfly's wings are a masterpiece of structural engineering, translucent, iridescent, and capable of independent movement. The Insectothopter's wings were crafted from a silken synthetic membrane. The body was painted with specialized non-reflective paints to ensure that even under a flashlight the bug would look like biological matter. Quote, "The visual signature of the vehicle is such that at a distance of 5 meters it is indistinguishable from a common dragonfly to the naked eye. Its acoustic signature, however, remains a point of technical concern." End quote. The engine made a high-pitched whine, like a tiny lawnmower. The engineers had to design acoustic mufflers made of microscopic foam just to keep the bug from giving itself away before it reached the target. Once the bug is in the air, how do you steer it? In 1970, radio control was impossible at this scale. A radio receiver would be larger than the dragonfly itself. The answer was laser guidance. The operator would aim an infrared laser at the back of the dragonfly. On the tail of the bug sat a retroreflector, a tiny prism. The laser didn't just track the bug, it steered it. By modulating the intensity of the light, the operator could tell the fluidic brain to bank left or right. A technical fact, this laser served a dual purpose. Once the dragonfly landed on a windowsill outside a Soviet embassy, the laser would hit a vibrating diaphragm in the bug's head. When people spoke inside the room, their voices would rattle the bug. The laser beam reflected back to the CIA agent would carry those vibrations. It was a remote-controlled drone that transformed into a laser microphone the second it landed. End quote. The project reached its peak in 1974. In the controlled hallways of Langley, the bug was a miracle. It could fly 200 meters with pinpoint accuracy. But the real world is not a hallway. Because the Insectothopter weighed only 1 gram, it was at the mercy of the atmosphere. A crosswind of just 5 miles per hour, barely enough to rustle a leaf, was the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane for the bug. During field tests near the river, the fluidic brain couldn't compensate for the turbulence. The bug would be tossed end over end. The engineers tried to implement a weighted keel, but the extra weight meant the engine ran out of propellant in 30 seconds. The physics of the 1970s had reached a wall. The Insectothopter was a masterpiece of engineering that could only operate in a dead calm. We now reach the section of the files where the black ink becomes a wall. Speculation on redactions. In document CIA RDP 90G01353R0012001000001-8, there is a 6-page gap following the atmospheric testing results. We believe these pages detail operational prototype 04, a mission that was never officially admitted. Based on context clues in the budget logs, the agency likely attempted a field-proof and a semi-controlled environment, perhaps a foreign consulate in a coastal city. The redactions hide the loss of asset reports. If a mechanical dragonfly crashes in a garden and a gardener picks it up, you have a diplomatic nightmare. The blacked-out pages almost certainly detail the burn protocols for when the bug was lost in the field and the frantic efforts to retrieve the miniature gas engine before it could be reverse-engineered by the KGB. In late 1974, the ORD officially shelved the Insectothopter. It had cost millions. It had never conducted a successful mission, but it wasn't a failure. It was a blueprint. The miniaturization techniques, the fluidic logic, and the laser reflectance tech born in this lab would evolve into the drones we see today. The Insectothopter proved that the agency's only limit was the wind itself. Today, the blue-green dragonfly sits in the glass case in the CIA museum, a silent reminder of a time when the agency tried to conquer the air with a gram of silk and a puff of gas. Next time on CIA Declassified, we move from the world of mechanical insects to the terrifying machinery of the human mind. We will be opening up the file on Project QK Hilltop. This was the agency's 1954 collaboration with the Chinese nationalists to master the art of the double agent. Based on document CIA RDP 81002610003000500012-6, we will explore the psychological shock techniques used to flip assets. This wasn't about bugs or lasers. This was about induced identity crisis, sensory deprivation, and the early dark foundations of what would eventually become MK Ultra. How do you break a man's loyalty? The answer lies in the hilltop. Join us next time for the architecture of shock. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.